Good morning. Welcome and thank you for tuning in to this week's segment of Long Coffee Breaks. My name is Brian Shipley, Account Executive for Long Building Technologies, Washington. My focus at Long Building Technologies is new construction sales for building automation, also known as DDC controls. I am pleased and excited to be here with you for the next 15 minutes to discuss SFAT, also known as Software Factory Acceptance Testing. So real quick, before we get into it too much, really what our function for a DDC controls provider on a project is in the mechanical field. And the team is, you're going to have the customer, the engineers, and the mechanical contractors, and then of course the subs such as ourselves who typically support the mechanical and so on. So when the design is designed and agreed upon, what they spec out equipment, and so the controls, or the mechanical contractor could put in any type of equipment, whether it be Daikin, it could be train, it could be carrier. It doesn't really matter to us on our end. Our goal and our job is to be able to talk to it and write program to make it meet a certain criteria and operate in a manner that that's been designed by the mechanical engineers. So that's what's called a sequence of operation, and essentially that's the programming code that we do to execute. So we provide the controls and the program. So SFAT, back to SFAT, is really the software factory acceptance testing is all about the programming side of it and the process of doing that in a most efficient manner. So please feel free to ask any questions at any time using the chat function. We'll be here to answer the questions after the featured presentation. We will stay on to provide answers after the coffee break is ended for as long as it takes. So the software factory acceptance test is a process that evaluates the sequence of operation during and after the programming by verifying that it is built and operating in accordance with design specifications. SFAT ensures that the components and the controls are working properly according to the functionality of the equipment itself. Long Building Technologies performs this testing at our facility with pertinent parties in attendance to verify and observe. A Long Building Technologies SFAT is typically conducted to assess any discrepancies and nonconformities, as well as develop a process for how they are to be handled. Deviations and abnormalities observed during the documented process gets onto an issues log, which is followed through and corrected. The SFAT is a customized testing procedure of different types of systems and tests that are executed before the final installation at the customer site. So why is SFAT such a big deal? Well, it pulls risk forward in the job and allows us to spend less time on the job site. Often we are programming up front, but not fully testing until after install. This leads to many issues that are only magnified when there are many contractors running around trying to get the building occupied. This often leads to stress, frustrations from all parties involved, more hours to fix, longer punch list items to finish the job. With SFAT, it allows us to find issues with graphics, programming, sequence of operations, and even issues with commissioning agent functional test. This allows us to have a cleaner solution and be in a better position and have a relationship built with the commissioning agent when we get on site. SFAT gives our end users a wow customer experience. Our most common feedback from our customers is the other providers just don't do this. They don't give us an opportunity to give input. Our featured guest this morning to help better understand the SFAT process is Rob Gamage, Controls Tech Supervisor for Washington Long Building Technologies. Hello, Rob. Welcome to this week's coffee break.
Good morning, Brian. Let me get into frame here. This is SFAT testing, or SAT, FAT. It's got many different acronyms just for us. Engineering firms and other software providers have this means of testing to validate that things are working according to spec before delivery. Think of it like buying a custom car from someone. You have the ability to go to that factory. If think of the company would offer a service where you could go to their shop, sit in a replica of your car, mocked up with everything, that all the parts and pieces and the specs that you ordered, and get a chance to test fit it, visually see everything that put together in one place, and test drive it to make sure that it meets your expectation before you take delivery. It's essentially what it is. And in our application, as Brian said, it has to do with the programming that we write to operate the equipment. So we have this really cool test bench in our shop, which is actually next to another test bench for our security solutions division. We have all this equipment on a dedicated OT that's separate from our computer network in our office. We've got many different control components, from a Niagara Jace, an N4 Jace. We have a industrial PC that serves a purpose of emulating a supervisor, as well as different flavors of the actual DDC controllers, different sizes to accommodate the different components of machinery that we'll be controlling. So we have our custom applications that will load into the specific controller that it will be loaded into on the job site. We take these controllers, we wire them up to our test panel, where we have meters, indicator lights for relays. We have knobs to simulate temperatures. We have the program in the controller, the database in the Jace, and the graphics running in the shop. We actually have a bigger monitor off to the side that we use to make it easier to see, but to illustrate that purpose, we have this display here. So we run through an actual simulation through the actual program and the database, simulating conditions and watching the responses while we're executing the commissioning agent's test plan. So along the way, we're able to make notes on possible discrepancies that might be noticed, or offer input, catch things in an environment. It's easier to identify discrepancies when we're able to sit in this controlled environment outside of the construction site. We don't have the distractions of the other trades or testing that's going on, fire alarms, insulators, drywallers, all that stuff. It's a much better environment to allow that really kind of dedicated focus to the testing.
Rob, I have a question.
Yeah, Brian.
Can you help me understand? Do you do this for every component in the field when you do a testing? It seems, or is it done? How do you execute it? How does that work?
I think I see what you're saying. Good point. Thank you. I think I meant to talk about that and I forgot. But so we'll test every what we call a typical program or a template program. So if we have 12 air handlers that are all the same, we only do one test. We test the one template program for that air handler. We test the VAVs program. We test the exhaust fans, the fan coil units, the heating water hydronic system, the cooling water hydronic system. Every main component that has a program, we're running through the sequence of operation right here on this bench. Any program changes that we wind up making are noted down, so we can track the version of that program, and we make notes to make sure that any other action items that might have been identified for other parties are able to follow up on that and make sure that action gets taken on those items. We're bringing in to witness I guess sorry to follow up on that too. The one limitation we have here in this shop is it's not big enough to bring in a Daikin unit or a train unit or a carrier unit, as Brian said. So we don't do the factory package controls. Again, this is just testing and getting acceptance of the programming and the software that we provide. During this process, we bring in the owner. We like to bring in the owner, the commissioning agent, or the critical parties. We also invite mechanical contractors, general contractors, and the mechanical engineers. We find that if we're all sitting in the same environment, observing the test, and we have a much more collaborative forum to discuss and communicate about maybe some misunderstandings or clarifications that may be out there without having to submit a whole bunch of RFIs and go through email chains from, we're a third tier sub, has to go all the way up through an architect. So it just makes it much more efficient. It saves time in the long run. Let's see, when we do this in our shop, we're providing lunch and providing breakfast, and we're even able to accommodate safe distance testing, where we have conference rooms in our office that we set up computers and our monitors with an online meeting program or platform that everybody's still able to observe and participate in the process, but still be safely distanced. Again, we really like to bring in all the people that participate in all these things rather than later in the game, early and upfront. Be in front of it and avoid the pitfalls of being under the gun and under pressure after installation's already taken place. We find that this really saves everyone involved, us too, time and money over fixing things. If we identify these things early on before it's installed, we can fix it much easier than after it's been installed. Better for everybody. The customer, they get to see the system much earlier than they typically get to, and offer input and feedback about the way the graphics are presented, or maybe how some of the sequences are executed to what they're used to and what their standards are. And again, we can really reduce the anxiety level of our contractors and being confident that we're driving this process and we know what the results are before the equipment is even installed. So with that, I think there may be some questions. Brian, I will return the floor to you. Thank you for your time and have a good day.
Thank you, Rob. Great job. We appreciate it. So that wraps up this week's segment of long coffee talks, coffee break, excuse me. And once again, and so next Thursday at 10 a.m., our featured topic is going to be Altronics Power Supply with Stephen Olivia. And that'll be presented by the Washington Lawn Security Solutions Group. Thanks again, and have a great day.